Hello, everyone. I am Claudio Murugan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire Show, and my guest today is Ingrid Honkala. She is a marine biologist, oceanographer, master scuba diver, NASA and Navy scientist, international lecturer. She became aware of other life dimensions from her near-death experience at 2 and was gifted with the wise input of beings of light. These help her face the challenges of growing up in her native Colombia and finding her destiny as a scientist and the giver of light. Her worldwide oceanographic surveys and her love for travel have brought her to visit 56 countries. Throughout her journey, she faced deadly war zones, underwater explorations, and time at NASA Research Center. She learned any human experience can be illuminated from within. In her autobiography, A Brightly Guided Life, How a Scientist Learned to Hear Her Inner Wisdom, Ingrid details her amazing journey filled with all the challenges that brought her to reconnect with her inner wisdom and to become a self-actualized and self-realized being. Ingrid, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a great honor. Thank you, Claudio.
And I watched some of your previous interviews, and I don't want you to repeat your near-death experience story when you were 2 years old, but that took you on a different path in your life, a completely path since then, and we'll go through that. But I want to start by mentioning, Colombia, which is an amazing country rich in indigenous culture. And I'm aware of the tribes like the Kojis and the Arawaco. Have you had any contact with them or people who were in contact with these amazing tribes?
Colombia is so rich in culture, and it's just so beautiful. And before I answer your question, it's also one of the most biodiverse countries in the world.
Yes.
So actually being there and having the possibility to travel around the country, which I did, just a great experience, like very rich experience. So I personally didn't have the opportunity to share with these communities, but of course we learn about them. And when I was younger, I was around, I would just say 16, 17 years old when I joined a group. The name of this group was Maíz, which we can translate in English as corn, which is so important for the Indian communities. And the idea was with this group was reunite people in the interest of learning about the Indian cultures of the Americas. So it was like reuniting all these wisdom and all these incredible messages and teachings that all the Indians from the whole continent can bring to us. So that was a very rich experience, and I learned a lot about the Mayans, about the Incas, about the Indians from Colombia, the Chibchas, that was the Indians of the area of the what we call Cundinamarca, or where Bogota is located. The Indians from the Amazons, from the United States, Lakotas, all different tribes, and learning from them was incredibly profound, especially because I have been receiving teachings from direct communication from, I call them beings of light. And when I started to listen to these teachings and read from some of the very profound books, like the Popol Book, which is the book of the community, the book of the people, I started to say, wow, the teachings I received, or a lot of the things I experienced during my near death and other spiritual experiences were recounted by these, but the Indians and the experiences that they have had. And it was so revelating, so incredible, so revealing. So it was beautiful learning from them, and I learned mantras and dances and We will honor the elements and the four directions and life. So yes, yes. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, indeed, it's a beautiful culture and all over South America. And another important component of the Colombian culture is the coca leaf. And I learned from a previous guest, which is an honorary Colombian citizen, how nutritious the coca leaf is. And my question is, why do you think the government didn't try to change the damaging image perception that coca, in fact, is used only to manufacture cocaine?
Oh gosh, this is really, really difficult point of conversation, because once perception has been twisted the way it was, it's really hard, especially because if you know, Colombia has been a country that has been fighting an internal war for, right now we could count almost 100 years. So in the moment in which the coca leaf was being used to produce cocaine, and so many damaging results coming from that, it was hard at that moment to try to show a picture showing the benefits of this leaf, when in reality was being used for purposes of creating power and money and division in governments, and all everything that was behind it was more powerful than the true meaning or the true power of nature of this plant, because it's been used in this plant has been used by the indigenous people for hundreds of years. And it's incredible when they use this leaf, they can, the purpose, one of the purposes was to be able to work for long periods of time, because they would have to work long distances, or they would just have to work with cattle, or just work the land, and they needed to feel strong and they needed to be awake. So they will also use it for medicinal purposes. They would also use it in ceremonies. So it was actually sacred.
Yeah.
But once it was twisted and the perception and it became part of fight of power, there's too much involved there at that point for anybody to try to see the good on it. Yeah.
Yes, and even nowadays, the USA has a program where they can go on top of these coca fields, and they spread pesticides and they destroy these cultures, which in fact are beneficial for the locals, not in huge quantities, but for their own use. This is beneficial because it's their own life.
Yeah, the problem is that there's another social problem, and is that because once the people growing it learn that it could be used for the wrong use. See, this carries so much social and so much history that is not something we can depict in one moment and say, why did you have to study the whole history?
Yes.
So also another thing that happened is that people were growing other kinds of plants, potatoes, whatever else it was. But they realized at some point that people trafficking and people using this plant to produce cocaine was paying them to do it. So they stopped growing the other kind of products that were helping the markets, just the regular food people were eating, and they stopped producing that and decided we grow coca leaf because that's what is going to give us money. So that also create a horrible imbalance.
Yes, indeed.
Now, yeah, and the other problem with this is what they are using to grow these plants. They do it to the point that they saturate the land with pesticides and all kind of stuff, and the land where they've been growing, because when you work the land, as this is one important thing, Claudius, that humans, we have forgotten that we are nature.
Yes.
And when we abuse and mistreat the land, then the payback is that the land is not going to be productive anymore, of course. So what they were doing is that they used it to the point that now there's acres of land that cannot be cultivated. We have to wait at least 100 years for this land to be productive again.
Yes, it's the the one type culture approach, which it happens in other parts of the world with corn or soy, and they do that on thousands of acres, and indeed they deplete the soil of minerals. That's for sure.
Yeah, so when it's done correctly, and when incredibly, when at the beginning the people working the land have the respect for the land, they will grow have the culture, and then they will harvest and allow that land to recoup and go plant in
On a
the
different
land
patch. Yes, yeah.
exactly would, then they will allow the land to breathe, to say something, to regenerate before they use it again. So that's the correct use of the resources.
Indeed. Ingrid, that NDE experience which you had when you were 2 years old was the only one you had, or there were multiple ones later in your life?
I have had actually two near-death experiences. I don't talk that much about the second one because the first one was so profound that is like we always, all the conversations always just get focused on the first one. But yeah, I had a second near-death experience when I was about, I think it was 24 years old. So yeah, I'm glad you asked because it was as profound as the first one, but very different.
Mm-hmm.
And what this second near-death experience can bring as a very important message is that, and something I have been able to share with people that are in the suffering I'm going to mention right now, is the relief that when you have, when you are involved like in a very bad accident, you really don't feel anything before you leave.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have had people with that suffering. I wonder if in this terrible car accident or airplane accident or motorcycle, whatever it is, if my loved one was in a lot of pain, all the suffering they have to endure, it's just, in my experience, I am like having the absolute knowing that that didn't happen. And then I went researching for this, and even my own mom, my mother, she was in a car accident, and the car rolled like 3 times on the road. And she said, Ingrid, the whole time this accident is happening, she was out of her body, looking at the accident, how her body was being like hit and roll and all that, and she didn't feel absolutely anything. So in this motorcycle accident that I had, this is when the second NDE happened, I was very fearful to drive this bike because it was new. And I had a friend that he said, oh, don't be silly. And you know how we don't listen to our inner guidance at that moment. He's like, oh, I have to be brave. You know, I have to show this friend that I'm not a chicken.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, the peer pressure. So I grabbed the bike and I could drive it in flat surfaces, but he's like, oh no, can you bring me to my house? And his house was at the top of a very steep hill. And I was very nervous, but I'm like, I can't do this. He sat at the back, I was driving the bike, and we did not have helmets. Just being young and silly. So I was in the bike, and it had the gear, and when I wanted to change gear, because now it needed it to go in this hill, I don't even know what happened. I guess a moment of fear, I lost the balance and the bike did a jump and I was on the ground. But even before, Claudio, I was like, I hit the ground. I don't recall what happened at that instant, but what I recall is that I am standing in the middle of the road. And when I'm standing in the middle of the road, I was, with the sense like, I am so ready. There was no fear whatsoever. There was no pain. There was not need to go anywhere, do anything, just the sense of like, it feels so peaceful, which is similar to what I experienced in my first near-death experience, just the sense of calmness, spaciousness, presence. I'm just there and I'm seeing light. And I'm just having the sense like, oh, this feels so, so good. And then at that moment, someone stopped, and my friend that was sitting at the back, he was able to jump out of the bike, so nothing happened to him. And I was being picked up. And at that moment, I realized, because when I now have the sense of somebody's touching the body, is when I had the sense, what happened? I cannot see. So I went from seeing light to seeing just dark. And I said, I cannot see. And it's when I put my hands in my eyes and I said, I cannot see. What had happened is I hit my head so hard on the ground with no helmet that I was blinded.
Mm.
And it's like my I guess my optic nerve got at that moment, just cut the communication, and I couldn't see. So I was brought to a hospital, and all the way there, and now is the anguish. I cannot see. What am I going to do? I'm blind. I cannot see. I arrived to the hospital, and it took about a couple of hours, an hour, I don't know, for me to start seeing. I started just to see a little bit. And then when the doctor came, I was there with my friend, and the doctor said, wow, I asked what happened. And he said, yeah, you lost your vision at the moment you hit the ground. He said, I bet at that moment you had this head concussion and the optic nerve just was maybe inflamed. I don't know, it just cut the communication. And I said, but that is not possible, because at that moment I was standing in the middle of the road and I'm seeing light. I'm seeing light everywhere. And it's when my friend looked at me and he said, it's not possible that you saw light, because it was at night, and where the accident happened, it was dark. There was not lights or anything. He said, the place was almost pitch black. He said, and by the way, he said, you never stood up.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
It's just when I'm like, oh, what? So in this occasion, I didn't have the awareness that I had separated. I had an out-of-body experience. I didn't have that clear awareness, but it was just, again, that beautiful sense of everything is all right.
Yes, I think the fact that your soul left the body, in fact, protected your physical body from a more damaging effect of that heat. This is what I think.
Yes, because at that moment when emotion is not involved, and all the struggle and all the resistance, then the body is just left alone to do what it needs to be done. Yeah, because we don't imagine how much our, what we call emotional body and mind can influence for the body to heal or not, or get more damage. Yeah.
Interesting. Ingrid, why did you become a marine biologist, and how much your guides influence this decision?
You know, I love this question, because people in my first near-death experience, I drowned. So people usually ask me, how could you become a marine scientist if you drown? You should be petrified of water. And it's amazing, because I said absolutely the opposite. I said, yeah, of course, drowning will bring a lot of trauma to a person. But for me, I never stayed at the level of that trauma. I said to people, for me, drowning brought me to see the light. Drowning was that, I would just say, the bridge that was needed for me to experience my true self, experience the spaciousness, the light, love, what we call God. So I I love the water. For me, water became like, oh, the place where I wanted to be. And incredibly, I was born in the mountains in Bogota. And it was the sense when I was like under the water, I just felt like, oh, this was my element. And I said that there's a parallel there too, because when I drown, or the near-death experience again brought me to the sense of discovering the depthness of who I am. And when I became a scientist and I wanted to, a marine scientist and a scuba diver, my idea as a scientist and diver was go deeper, explore the depthness of everything. So the things I wanted to have when I was a child were microscope. I wanted to have books. I wanted to have puzzles, things that I could just look deeper, go and see and discover things. And my parents brought me to see the ocean when I was 4 years old. And I'm standing there and I am in this state of awe. I'm mesmerized. And my mom is like, Ingrid, because I will get like that. I would just look at something and just be lost in this. And my mom, Ingrid, you okay? And I said, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to know what is under that blanket. I call it a blanket because it was like, oh, so
Beautiful.
big.
Yes, very beautiful.
And after that, Claudia, I wanted books, everything that had something related with the ocean, fish. And I started to later see, they will have on TV, what was his name? He was the French.
Jacques Cousteau.
Jacques Cousteau. And I wanted to see every episode. So I was so into this. And when I was 5 years old, my dad was standing there. I can even remember so clear the images. He's there next to the door smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, Dad, when I grow up, I'm going to be a marine scientist. And I had an uncle that he actually was a marine biologist, but I didn't know much about it. But I said, I want to be like my uncle. I want to be a marine scientist. And my dad said, if that's what you want to be, that's what you will be. And then they supported me with this. But now that you talk about the how much the beings of light influence this decision, this is beautiful, because I think we are all following I would just say, a plan that is bigger than what we think, that it goes beyond the ego mind, is what I always say. And I always have seen how we are being guided, even we don't know. And later in my life, I didn't see it at the moment, but later in my life, I realized that career, becoming a scientist and doing something I love, my relationship with the water, was very, very, very important for me, because I needed to ground. From the moment I had my near-death experience until I was about 16, it was 17 years when I went to college. All this time, I had been pretty much like if I did not belong here. I had the sense I don't belong. And I was communicating with beings of light. I was having out-of-body experiences. My grandmother was a great influence in my life to even open my path to clear to spirituality. So imagine, Claudia, 9 years old, I'm reading books like the Bhagavad Gita. I'm reading books like Self-Realization or Aparakshanobhuti, the book Viveka Chudamani, or the book of discernment at 9 years old. And I'm having all this awareness, all this clarity. My grandma's taking me to meet spiritual teachers. But 8 years old, I was meditating. By 12, she brought me to the first Buddhist temple. So I am in just completely involved in the spiritual world, and I just wanted to be enlightened. That was my goal. Not even imagine as a child.
Yeah, we all want to do that. We'll see who will get there.
Yes, so I was not really grounded in this world, which brought me to feel the sense at some point. Imagine my other part of my life is going to school, doing all these other things with people of my age. I didn't feel identified with any of that. So there's a point where I started to compare myself, and I'm seeing my sisters and I'm seeing the world around, and they're like now starting to go out parties and the boys and all that. And for me, it's like, I don't belong. I don't belong. So actually, when it was the time to join college, I in my mind it was like, you know what? I just want to be like others. I just want to belong. I want to be like everyone else. And this career gave me that opportunity, because at the end, Claudio, I think that everything is about balance. I could not just have all this spiritual knowledge and not being able to ground, because then what is it for? The idea is that we become not just a self-realized being, but self-actualized. What am I going to do with all this awareness, with all this knowledge? How can I serve? How can I pass it to others?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
So that's what my career and becoming a scientist offered to me, the possibility to start.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very, very interesting. And staying on the subject of water, because you are so deeply connected with water, I have to ask you the same question which I ask certain guests. Do you think water has memory?
Yes, actually, everything has memory. This is absolutely beautiful what you're asking. And yes, and I want, now that you say this, it just gives me the chills, because not long ago I had an incredible experience. I was in a silent retreat. I was in this retreat for about a week, 10 days. And then after few days of being in meditation, just really powerful meditation, I was in this deep connection with source, the source of that I am. And I went to take a shower. And it's amazing because we're not never really, but it was at all levels, because it was that sense of also grounding, embodiment, is the sense of appreciation for all there is, this temple and the source of it. So I'm taking a shower, and when we ever think about our back, like we just are more aware of what is in front of us. And then I'm taking this shower, and I'm started to sense the water rolling, and I sense the water at the back of my legs. And at that moment, Claudius, I have this experience of experience the way the water experience itself as it was connecting or touching my body. And I was like, wow. It's like I could feel the water at the subatomic level, and how the atoms and how as the water touched the atoms of my body, there was an experience.
So water caressing you pretty much.
Sorry?
Water caressing your body.
That was incredible. And yes, water carries the memories. And I think that it is imprinted everywhere in the space.
Yes, I mean, I recently wrote a short story, which will be part of the anthology I'm putting together about water. And the end line is water God, or another form of God? Because God is everywhere, water is everywhere. So we can consider that water is another form of God.
Yes, and you want to know a beautiful teaching I received from the beings of light. There was I always wake up 3, 4 in the morning and get these beautiful visions and teachings. And in this teaching, there was a lake, and the water was completely quiet, calm, peaceful. Like, wow, this was just beautiful. And then a being of light is holding a pebble, and then it drops a pebble in the water. And what is the first thing we're going to think as an expectation? Oh, it's going to create a disturbance in the water.
Yeah, the ripples, yeah.
The ripple. And that was just right there was a teaching, because when the rock touched the water, it did not create a disturbance. It did not create a ripple. It's like it just passed through air. And I was, of course, like, what? And it's when they said to me, this is the place you have to reach. When no matter the challenge, no matter the situation, it will not create a disturbance. It will not create a ripple. That's your inner peace. So they said to me, why do you think that humans are made of 70% of water? And I'm like, and they said, Ingrid, learn to keep your inner water calm.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
So that was so profound, because now if I am in like the line, I am somewhere and this line or the whatever situation, I'm just go back to that teaching. Ingrid, keep your inner water calm.
Yeah, so that also requires a certain level of detachment from what's around us in order to keep that calm and balance, emotional balance.
Yes, and detachment from expectation.
Yes.
Like, it was such a profound teaching, showing me that do not be attached, be in your moment, and keep that calmness, and you'll see that. And don't create a story, because usually it's not the situation. The situation is that there's a line and I have to make the line to get and pay my bill, whatever it is, or pay for my groceries. But we create a story in the mind. Oh, this line or this thing or whatever. If we detach from that story, nothing is happening. It's what the beings of light said to me, Ingrid, nothing is happening. And this is beautiful, because they said, nothing is happening, but everything is happening. So we always can have the opportunity to see from that place of calmness and see that, oh, this is apparently all this is happening.
Yes, because we put or give importance to the things happening in our lives or surrounding us. So based on the importance, that will affect us more or less. And that will go back to the detachment and keeping the emotional balance.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Staying on the subject of water and oceans, we know that ocean pollution right now it's high up there with extreme situations, degradation of water's molecular structure from oil and air pollution, plastic disintegration. What's going to happen if the oceans cannot adapt that fast and find a countermeasure to all this damage?
Then we are going to pay the price because everything is cause and effect. If we cannot take responsibility of our actions are going to present to us in all the effects that we're seeing now. Is that was, I have worked with very big projects. For a while I worked with the Environment Ministry of Colombia and with UNESCO. It was a big project with mangrove ecosystems, and the people were, and I work this big project in the Caribbean islands, and I was the lead for this project there. And it was incredible because people were destroying this resource. Again, people forget that they are nature, that they can just go and make use of this resource and destroy it all, not thinking about the consequences of what they're doing. And when we started to show them, look what would happen if you destroy the place where all fish and all the different animals come and put their eggs, and where the larvae and all the small fish are going to develop. What do you expect you will fish in the future? You cannot use and destroy. We started to show them what would happen if you can't destroy all these trees. Nothing will stop the wind from coming to the coast. We showed them all the things that would happen, but not just that. this project was not about forbidding. This project was about creating consciousness. So when we started to bring the people, show them what could happen, show them what would not happen if they would treat the resources with love, if they would grow it, if they, oh, look at the future, how can improve for you and your future generations. And then what we did was show the people the sense of belonging and the sense of respect and the sense of connection. And guess what? People started to grow the trees, and we create greenhouses. And when they were in certain size, we would go and replant them in the areas, and started to do big projects of reforestation. And it was amazing because it was showing people that how valuable it was working together, and that they were actually the heroes if they were protecting and saving the resource. I did the same. I work with NASA. The whole work I did was studying carbon cycles in the planet. We'll go to the major rivers in the world and the deltas and measure organic matter. And we will collect all this data to able to validate the algorithms for the satellites that were measuring dissolved organic matter and chlorophyll. And we're able to create incredible articles and projects and books showing people, look what we're doing. We're creating so much disbalance in the ocean that we're having all these red tides when we have blooms of algae that are actually not beneficial. And look at what we're creating, look at what we're doing. So I said to people, when we think about anything that is happening in the planet, even wanting to create peace, save the environment, save the animals, save the plant, whatever you think you want to do in this planet, start with yourself. That's what I said to people. Don't expect nobody to resolve the problem. Start with you. Am I recycling? Am I really polluting or using too much water? Am I tossing trash in the streets? Am I doing what I am doing? People say that, oh, what can I do if I am but one person? No, everything. Because the moment you do it and you become the example, your children will do it. And then the children will see the neighbor and then the school, and then we grow together. We just start holding the hand of each other. So I said, we have everything to do, each one of us. If I think it's somebody else's fault, I keep the loop of victimhood.
Yes.
If I start doing something, then now I'm being the solution of the problem.
Yes, I agree that more education is required at all levels of society about climate, about pollution, about ourselves, in fact, and how we can evolve. And how do you, combine the scientist side of yourself with the spiritual and immaterial side? Is there any push and pull within yourself?
No, and I absolutely love that question. Because I think that the separation between science and spirituality is just a concept in the mind. Because if you think about it, you were going to talk about spirituality. Spirituality is not a belief. Spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is actually an experience. The only way to get there, the only way to realize who you truly are is by being that. So I said to people, the moment spirituality is empirical. The moment that I said, oh, you think about, say, compassion in the world. Don't believe about compassion. Spirituality is not believing anything. Spirituality is being that, doing it. Yeah, you start with a belief because you have to start somewhere, but then, okay, let's go do it. So the moment, okay, you're talking about compassion, let's be compassionate and see what happens. See what happens. So at that moment, you become that compassion being. You do the work, you learn about compassion. At the beginning, it's just probably just concept. Now you start, doing all that requires to be compassionate, feeling it, sensing it, living it. And now you have a result. You compare the result and now, oh, yes, look what happened. So you are actually using the scientific method in your own beingness. So I for me, again, science and spirituality go together. There's not separation. It's only in the mind. And I had this incredible experience. There was a moment, Claudio, in which I had what I call a big awakening. And despite that I have had my near-death experience and I have had so much awareness throughout my life, this big awakening didn't happen until I was about 39, 40 years old. And it was just that, like knowing the depthness of who I was for real. And then at that moment, it's the sense of, I want everybody to know this because you want to share. I want everybody to know how this feels. What is this? What all this? And then I asked the beings of light, what can I do? What can I say? And I was still working at that moment with NASA, the Navy, and it's when the answer came to me, and it's when the beings of light said to me, do or say nothing. The light of your awareness is all they need. Mm-hmm. So this is the part where we stop the conceptual thinking and the doing and the idea that I have to do something. No, just be that. Be the embodiment of that realization, be the embodiment of that light, of that joy, compassion, peace, calmness, all these principles, all these virtues, be the embodiment of that. And that's all you have to do. And from there, the doing and the saying will come. It will come from the state of being.
Yes, they will be aware at one point that you are awake through your actions and through your attitude towards them. And no words are necessary at that point, indeed.
Exactly, it's just by walking your talk. So at that moment is when I said, look, you merge what we consider spiritual and scientific, because you are actually producing a result. I said that is the laboratory of life. We are living, being the embodiment, doing, being the experience. So I love that question. And I said, once you are the embodiment of the true nature, the light that you are, it doesn't matter if you are a doctor, a scientist, carpenter, a painter, it doesn't matter. Just be that. Be who you truly are, and you just are that example of the light in every place, with every person, at every moment.
Yes, I don't want to be mean, but I have to make a comment related or regarding a doctor being awakened. If a doctor gets awakened, I don't think he will be, or he or she, be able to continue the same practice, offering the same treatment, and knowing that not everything is proper and everything is related to kind of pharma or chemicals, and their conscience will come forward and it will ask them to be honest to themselves and provide different type of treatment, like natural treatments or any other type, which are more closely to our bodies.
And you are very right. And not to, again, I support not to harm anybody's feelings, but I have met so far many doctors that were practicing their medicine for many years, and when they had an awakening, they realized, wow, there's so many other things we can do. It's psychology, psychiatry, many of the fields of medicine, and they started to take different approach didn't sometimes have to abandon completely the practice, but they started to combine, or they started to really, some of them move completely away from the allopathic way to do things and use more natural ways that flow more with our own nature. So I think you're very right. In my case, although I love science, I love what I was doing. There was a moment in which, and life brought me there. I at the end, I was working in projects that were not really aligning with what I wanted to do, and the time for me to serve came in a way. It was so big, Claudio, so heavy in me that I could not disperse, or I could not use my focus in this. I had to completely use it in what I needed to do. So I quit my job, and at that moment I was doing actually very big projects. I was very successful. I was representing the Navy all over South America, and when I got to the office, there was a day that I said, I have to go. And they asked me, oh, what is going on? What can you offer you? What can we do for you to stay? And I didn't mean to be arrogant or anything like that, but I just was nothing. I have to go. And
I understand completely. I'm at that point right now, and it's not official yet, but I'm going to follow the same steps you followed very shortly. And I will have to let go this existing path of life and switch to something else, which is much more fulfilling for me in the long term. The serving others type of path.
yes, and when it presents in our path, it's just so strong. There was a moment where I didn't want to listen to this guidance, and I even got physically sick because I just was too overwhelmed. I was almost abusing my body, working so much, and it was the moment where I just have it so clear. And you know, Claudio, when people say, when that moment come, how I know? And I said, oh, you will know the way you're feeling it. When you know, you know. And the moment you really know, the fear goes away. Because before I had it clear, I'm like, no, but I'm making so much money. I'm being so successful. I'm doing all these things. I'm traveling the world. I don't know. And when the clarity came, it was just like, again, like water. Like if I was being washed by clear, clean water, and now it was actually a Saturday, and I said, Monday, I'm quitting my job. It was that, and I knew it, and I felt it, and I sensed it, and the fear was gone. And I went there like, I'm done.
Yes, yeah. To me, it just showed an image where I hold on a rail and I have to let go of the rail, just let myself on the back, and someone will catch me, just for sure. I mean, God's spirit will catch me, and I understood that I have to do it. So I will do it very, very soon.
Yes, and it's the trust we have about what we are to do. When I had the sense of serving, and my book came, and I started to get people ask me about my book. You think your book is going to be a bestseller? And I said, I don't know. I don't even hold any expectation. I said, if one person read it and it does good to that person, I already wrote a bestseller. And when it happened, and I started to receive 1 and 2 and 3 and tons of emails and a huge response, and people saying your book saved my life, and I started to just have sessions with people and present and do all the things. I'm like, all of it came, and now I was just responding to that guidance. When people ask me, what is your plan? Do you have a plan? I said, I don't have any plan. My plan is God's plan. But that doesn't mean that I cross my arms. No, I receive the guidance, or I'm there and things come. Oh, this talk, this presentation, this session, this thing, this, and I feel it in my heart, and it feel like, is this something I should do or not? I said, people, it's so important to write and to have a notebook, and I always write, how does it feel? How does it feel in my heart? Is this a go or not? oh, it feels good. It feels out of stress. There's no constraint. It feels relaxed. It feels, oh, so yes. And I don't even have to really call for talks or for anything. It just presents. And I'm like, God, put it in my path. And I just go and do and do and do. And this is the way it has been.
Yes, I'm also very grateful for being chosen to write the books I wrote and the messages I had to write about. And again, I didn't care about if I'm gonna have a bestseller or not, or be famous or not. I just knew that I have to write the books and let them out there, and whoever encounter them and read them, that will benefit them. And again, I'm very detached from that process. It came so easily to me, and I don't have to say, oh, I did it. I know someone else put it into me. I was the vessel, and we'll move on.
I love what you're saying, because that's what I always feel. I just say, I'm not doing anything. I'm just a vehicle. I'm just a vehicle. I say, I am being done, because it's get out of the way and let God in. So I just say, I am the vehicle for these things to happen. And it feels so good. It feels so liberating. It feels effortless. Like this is another thing. I said, I didn't write a book. The book wrote itself. Again, like you said, I was just the vehicle for this to happen. This book wanted to be written, and I was just there to make it happen. So that's just really, really beautiful, because we're not attaching ourselves. But this is the other thing I said to people, that there is a very big difference between attachment and appreciation. I said, I appreciate with all my heart everything God offers to me. Every single day is the state of gratitude, but I'm not attached to it.
Yes.
So that brings liberation, the states of freedom, because you can always move on and just be appreciating everything that is. There is this beautiful teaching about gratitude. The beings of light offered to me. They said, Ingrid, you don't imagine how grateful every human being would be if they realize, Claudio, but that for you to exist, for Ingrid to exist, for each person that is listening to this podcast to exist, trillions and trillions and trillions of subatomic particles have to be in agreement. They said, Ingrid, you are, Claudio, you are a divine intention.
Yes, indeed.
Wow. They said to me, imagine if we had that clarity. So at this moment, I am in a sort of state of gratitude, because I think, oh, this pen, trillions of subatomic particles for me to use this pen to write, this glass of water, this fruit. So it's that, oh, I appreciate all this so much. So just, and you know, gratitude is one of the highest vibrational frequencies.
Yes.
Or we feel in that space of gratitude and appreciation, the higher we vibrate. Because what makes you feel gratitude? The things that make you feel great.
The smallest one. If we know how to thank and be grateful for it, it will bring that goosebump effect on our body for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, now at that point, woof, we remove all the blockages and we're connected with all there is. We're just vibrating with all there is, because we are in the state of, I would just say, we are aligned. We are connected.
Yeah. Ingrid, I'm curious, are your light beings from Earth or from a different planet?
Oh, there's not actually a difference in location or anything like that. You know, when we talk, always when we talk about a place or about a sex or about a race, or there's polarity.
Mm-hmm.
So with these beings, there's not a state of polarity. There's not really, to the point that I never care or never have asked even for names. It's not needed. Like I have my own experience when I was little and I wasn't connected to my name after my near death, and they will come and ask me like, Ingrid, and I will be aggravated. Don't call me like that. And they will come and say, but so how we should call you? And I say, I do not need a name. And that's when the beings of light, at first I could see them, smell them, sense them, but now I could started to hear them. And it's when they said to me, it's going to take time for them to understand that names are not needed in the realm of the light. Mm-hmm. And it's when I understood, it felt so good to know I'm not crazy. I understand now why I don't need a name. And I was little, I was 5 years old. And I was in the sense of like, oh, this feels so good, because it was the understanding labels and all these things. But of course, I understood over time that here on this realm and in this human experience, it's like we're like a basket. And this basket is so important that it has a name, a profession, a personality, a role. Yeah, these things, again, we appreciate them for our uniqueness. So the appreciation of all of these. But when we are in touch with these higher levels of reality, of consciousness, all the labels, the here and there, the time, the name, all these disappear.
Are meaningless. And not to pick on doctors, but I always, I was puzzled when you ask a doctor what's his name, he'll introduce himself. My name is Dr. So-and-so. And I think once I will ask the doctor, on your birth certificate, this is what it says, Dr. So-and-so? No, your name is so-and-so, and it happens for you to be a doctor. That's a label. So all this ingrained in our society that we put the label as part of our names, which is totally wrong.
Yeah, so we just go labeling everything. And you know, there's also, we have to know that that's why I mentioned there in my, and you read it in my bio, how it is said that I access other levels or other, to say something, levels of consciousness, although there's no levels either, but we need a language to be able to talk. But what is these levels is how aware we are, how conscious we are about who we truly are, and accessing different states, this call it states of consciousness, are also part of all this awakening. And I had an experience, Claudio, where I was being able to access about, again, I give a number because it felt this way. I could even count it, like it was about 6 or 7 different states of awareness. So it's when I discovered that we are multi-dimensional beings, depending of how it can happen at any moment, how aware we are about who we truly are. We can go through all the depthness, what is called also the deep I, the depthness of who we are, that goes from being the wave at the surface to realizing I am the wholeness of the ocean. So I had an experience in which one night I went to sleep and I was sound asleep. And I like to compare with the ocean because I am a marine scientist. Then I heard a bell and I'm deep asleep, like cling, 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 cling. And I woke up and I'm like, I wonder what is that bell? And to be able to compare and make the analogy to make it easier to understand is like if I woke up at the depthness of the ocean, the bottom of the ocean. So at that moment, if you think about the bottom of the ocean, it doesn't have direct connection with the wave at the surface. The bottom of the ocean is not sensing what is happening at the surface. So I woke up there and I'm like, didn't think anything else, just what is this bell? Cling, cling. And then the bell sound again, cling, 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 cling. And I woke up. I'm like, whoa, how can I wake up if I was awake? What just happened? What? Then I'm in this state and I heard the bell again and I woke up again. And I'm going through different levels of consciousness as I am waking up in every level. So comparing with the column of water, now I'm getting closer to the surface until when the bell rang, like the 5th time, is when, for the first time in all this experience, I had the sense that there was something called Ingrid. Before that, there was not even a thought. And then, then I heard the bell again, and now I woke up in what I call the non-physical reality, which is really similar to the physical, but with, of course, without the presence of matter. And I'm there and I'm like, whoa, now there's an Ingrid. And now, okay, yeah, I'm realizing that something is going on really. And the last bell, I woke up in my physical form, and I'm like, so I'm really looking at my husband, touching him. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I'm here. And there was not a bell anywhere to be heard. So it's when I realized how we are actually existing at all levels of being. And the more we become aware of the depthness of who we are, we're actually exploring, we're actually experiencing ourselves in all the capacity that we are. So it's really beautiful, because it's when we realize, depending of where our focus of attention is, we can think that again we are the wave, or that we are the ocean in its totality.
Yeah, very interesting inner journey. Beautiful. Thank you. During your ocean dives, have you communicated with dolphins or whales?
You know what? I have had really beautiful experiences actually with dolphins. Yes, I used to, I lived in a sea aquarium for a while, for like, I think it was a couple of years. And then I didn't train the dolphins or anything, but I was working with other side of biology. I was working more with fish and stuff, but there was a place where they held the dolphins, and it's incredible because they're not like everybody can get in the water and, oh, let's play with the dolphins. They can be pretty aggressive. If they don't want you there, and I saw it, experience this with people. If they don't want you with them, they will, with their tail, they will kick you out. If you don't listen, they start like hitting the water. And if you don't listen, they come and slap you hard in the chest, and then you have to leave. They can, a big hit from a dolphin can kill you. So, but if they like you, oh, they're extremely, extremely friendly, like dogs, like any animal. If they receive you, and you, with animals, is incredible, because it's all about calmness. You calm your mind, you open the door of connection. And there's even the most aggressive animal would drop. But if you are in the state of thinking, and the more thought you create, the more you're actually pushing away. So I would remember living in this island, just being in absolute peace. I always was meditating, and I would just sit. I wouldn't jump in the water and disturb the environment. It's also about respect. I will sit there in the platform and just meditate, and all the dolphins will come. And they're the ones now inviting you to come in the water. And the dolphins, of course, you have to be careful not to pull hard because of all the teeth, but they will grab you gently and pull your leg or your arm, like they inviting you to come. And then I will get in the water. And now sometimes they will forget that I need to breathe. So it would just, I will grab the dolphin, they'll take you deep in the water, or they will grab you by the arm. And I would just have to kind of remind the dolphin that I had to go out there to breathe. But it was incredible. It was such an amazing time, because again, when we remember that we are nature and that we have to create a space for each other and respect each other, then nature becomes inviting.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah.
Ingrid, please share with us more about your programs and how you are helping our brothers and sisters these days.
Yes, thank you so much for allowing me to share this. Yes, I do sessions where I do with people 60 or 90-minute sessions, and these are really powerful because I usually what happened, Claudius, that before the very moment people write to me, connect with me, it's like we give permission. We just create a connection. And before the sessions, I meditate, and it's the sense of knowing what this person needs. So the sessions are really beautiful, very powerful. Sometimes what it requires is a meditation, sometimes it's a practice, sometimes it's just discussion. Whatever is the person is looking, it comes, and it comes so beautifully and very powerful. So I love this time I get to share with people individually, but I also do a monthly mentoring class where I share just teachings, meditation, and questions and answers. And I also do workshops and speaking engagements and interviews. So I am trying to deliver this message any ways I can. And the other thing is, like we were talking at the beginning, just be at your home with your family. Be that peace, be that calmness, be that how you teach love by being love.
Yes.
So in the community, with the people, wherever you are. And that's the message. The true message is that even if we just would stay in our community, but being the embodiment of that light, then the work is being done. You know, I asked the beings of light, Claudio said, talk to me about purpose and mission. And they said to me something really powerful and beautiful. They said, Ingrid, your purpose, of everybody's purpose, your purpose is to be the light, and your mission is to shine it.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful message and end of the interview. I don't know if you have any other final thoughts, but these were quite beautiful. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh no, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for sharing your light with the world too, Claudio, because working together, I said, for just as a last thought, one little candle can flicker in the wind, and many candles together create a big fire.
Yes.
And that's the word. Let's shine our light together. Let's do what we can for our sisters, brothers, for the world that needs light. And of course, we're always here to learn too. My door is always open to new discoveries. What else? I say, God, help me see what I cannot see.
Yes.
Say, I am blind. Help me see. Keep me humble. Keep me simple, and always keep me open to give and to receive.
Once again, thank you very much for your time. And to my viewers, I encourage you to learn Ingrid's book, A Brightly Guided Life, How Scientists Learn to Hear Her Inner Wisdom. Also, please share this interview, like it. Support me on patreon.com/Claudio Murgan. Get a free copy of my book when you visit my website, claudiomurgan.com. And until next time, love and gratitude.